Once again, I apologize for no video. Like I said, I'm just not in the mood today. I'm really not. And I was going to be talking about today a topic that I've been really thinking about, and I apologize because it might be a little bit all over the place, but at some point, I believe that we'll come to some kind of understanding. So here's what I've noticed in society today. Society today's response to racist actions are one of two things. It's either, uh, black people can be racist too, or the response is, it's not a big deal. Everybody has a little racism in them. And honestly, I believe that if you truly were not a racist, as you say, your response would be a lot different than that. Because a non-racist person would never respond with I had a black friend once, or I dated a black guy once, or black people are racist too, in response to being called racist. A non-racist person would respond with the thought of thinking that I was above someone else based on the color of their skin honestly disgusts me, and that's why I'm not a racist. That would be the appropriate response to someone calling you a racist. The appropriate response is not that you've had a black friend once, or that you dated a black person once, or that you even date black people, period. That's not the appropriate response. The appropriate response is that racism disgusts you. The thought of you being superior to someone else based on your race disgusts you. That is the appropriate response. I have a friend. Her name is April. April's white. I love April to death. If you were to call April a racist, her response to you, and I guarantee you that her response will not be that she has a black friend. Her response would be that she dedicated her life and she dedicates her time to addressing and working on black issues and black justice. And that the thought of ever being put off or disgusted by someone based on the color of their skin honestly makes her physically ill. And when I tell you that it makes her physically ill, I mean it makes her physically ill to even see anything like that going on. The girl practically hyperventilates. That's the difference between a non-racist person and a racist person. And no, I don't believe that the color of your skin makes a difference when you talk about racism. But honestly, you have to think about certain things in certain situations in this world that make people racist. So in order to be racist, there has to be an idea of superiority. And normally minorities do not have that idea of being superior because they have been browbeaten so much by this world that tells them that they are less than, that they don't have really the capacity to feel superior because they've been told that they're not shit based on the color of their skin their whole life. So when people say that black people can't be racist, it's not because they're saying black people can't be racist. If they're saying that there has to be an aspect of superiority in order to be racist, doesn't necessarily mean that a black person can't be racist. But the idea and the mindset of being racist normally is not something that minorities possess. However, black people and other minorities can be prejudiced. And what usually stems from prejudice mindset is anger or frustration at something that happened to them or in the past, or something that happened to somebody else in the past, and it does not come from a superiority complex based on the color of their skin. It comes from hurt in a place of anger, and at some point they've said that they're through and they're fed up and they're done. But nobody takes a opportunity to look at that kind of stuff. They just want to point the finger because it's easier to say that you've had a black friend once, or black people can be racist too. And what sparked this discussion for me was basically just reading the comments and stuff about the Trayvon Martin case, and how people have taken upon themselves to discuss how can you be upset about what happened to Trayvon if you're black when black people are killing other black people. And that is the difference between someone who has common sense and doesn't, because your response to a young boy being murdered should be sympathy for the parents, and you should have some kind of response of empathy. Your first response should not be, well, black people are killing black people, so it's okay that this little boy died. Come on. You really have to have a cold and callous heart to not first feel something about the situation, regardless of how you feel, how the situation went down. That little boy is dead, and now his family has to deal with that grief. Regardless if you think that it was his actions or whose actions, period, point blank, there's a young boy dead. Always should be a tragedy. And I just don't understand these people that come from these weird places of non-remorse when it comes to stuff like this. And this is why people think that it's racist, because it's like, how could you not feel any kind of remorse for this situation? Regardless of how you feel, it has to be something other than what you're saying. There has to be something underlined behind the way that you think and the actions that you're taking. I don't like this society that has went from one extreme to the other, that has went from everything being racist to nothing is racist at all. That's extremely scary, especially for a person of color to live in a society like that. Because remember what happens when we forget history and brush it off. It repeats itself. And sooner or later, people are going to have to wake up and see that, yes, racism is still alive and thriving in America. And the reason why it's not going anywhere is because nobody is willing to address and talk about real issues. Instead, they want to put a blanket over it and pretend like it doesn't happen, and talk about how the media is making this race war and all this other nonsense. This race war, or whatever you want to call it, has always been happening in America because the system is uneven, and it's always been uneven. If you look at the stats and how much minorities make a year opposed to a white man, it's devastating. And how can you tell me or anybody else that that is anything but the way that the system is set up? Because it cannot be that every black person on the planet has the same kind of mindset, and they all think the same way, and they all live the same way, and they all do the same thing, because that my mentality is crazy to me, to say that one race of people just are that way because they're inherently that way. But yet these same people, when it comes to gay issues, then they say that you can't be born with a certain kind of mentality, yet they place it on black people that, yeah, you can be born with a certain kind of mentality. So how do we explain the reason why this system is so unlevel, other than the fact that uh, people think that inherently black people are stupid or less than or cannot achieve the same thing that a white person can achieve based on the color of their skin, which is racism. And a guy commented on one of my videos that I made, and he said that the black people commit more crimes. That's why more black people are arrested. Black people commit more crimes. So why do you think that is? That's the real question. Why in the world would, just because someone is a specific skin color, would they commit more crimes than any other people of any other race? The only answer that you could have had to that question is either the system is set up that way, or two, that inherently black people are gangsters and inherently they're thugs and commit crime. So that's your choice to make on how you feel about that. There was just a study done that I forgot who the study was by, but it was a study that tested minorities and tested Caucasians and with marijuana use. And although white people use marijuana more than black people got arrested. I don't know if it was 3 or 5 times more. Either way, the number was ridiculous. Now, how do you explain that one race of people uses or does something more, yet the other race of people face more consequences for it? Now, how could that possibly be anything but what it is? It's hard for me to sit back and watch what's going on and not say anything, because I get very upset and it starts to consume me to see what's going on in this country and what's going on in this world, and it scares the living daylights out of me. Anyways, I just really feel like I needed to get that off my chest. Sorry for my long rant, and maybe some of it didn't really fit, or whatever. I'm doing this off the cuff of my head. I don't have a script or anything like that, so I apologize. Anyway, thank you for watching this video, and have a great night.